All right. Hello, React Alicante. Buenas tardes. Okay, I am so excited to be here. Actually, this is my first time here at React Alicante. Is this anyone else's first time? Yeah, and then raise your hand if you've already been here before. Yes, so many people are coming back to this conference. Like, I have a feeling it has like a really high retention. It makes me want to come back and be part of this community next time. So my name is VICENTI. I'm part of a very small team, and we are working to reimagine the web. We imagine a web where there are no broken links, where servers are optional, and content can be distributed and moderated by people who you trust. We imagine a web where all content, all pages on this web can be forked, archived, and deeply referenced. But actually, we're not ready to talk about it just yet, so that's not what I'm going to be talking about today. Today I want to talk about perception, or perceived limitations. Something that seems normal to you can include hidden limitations, which will prevent you from seeing what is actually possible. Our perceived limitations can shut down our dreams. But actually, this is a technical talk. I want to show you what I've been working on for the past year in my free time. And I've actually been working on an app, and I'd like to show it to you now. Okay, so this is Uprising. And let me just refresh, so it's a nice and fresh instance of our visualization. So here we have a React Native app that's controlling this visualization. And here you can see what's both live, which is what is being shown right now, and what is ready. So this is like the scene that's coming next. And so we can tap into what's live. And so I want to actually try to transition to what's ready. I want to go ahead and hit transition. But, well, the button's not here. So hang on, I'm going to need to go into the code real quick. This is just some normal code. I mean, this is a React Native app. It's using Temagui as the design system. Oh, here's the culprit. Yep. You know, someone went and commented out this code. Okay, so I'm going to put this back. And now we can go ahead and start our transition. So we can see just it transitioning over to this other screen. Okay, cool. And I'm going to go ahead and transition back. And then let's go into this screen, this cosmic scene. And we'll see that it's layers. These are layers like Photoshop with different blend modes. So this is a pastel texture on top. It's a scene. There's a mask scene. And here is the color journey, which is kind of the main visual that we're seeing. And it's actually a playlist. So if I hit play next, it's going to go ahead to go to Gold Sky Spiral. Very creative names here. Anyways, each of these videos, basically, they have effects on them, but we can edit the effects on the whole sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and add an effect called Colorize. And here I'm going to crank up the colorize amount, and we can see, ooh, pretty nice, right? So actually, Colorize, it's missing a pretty important feature, right? Because we need to be able to change the hue of colorization. So we'll come in here. Oh, it's another one of these. Someone's been sabotaging my code, I guess. Before I uncomment this and turn it back on, first of all, has anyone here ever played with React Native? Either you work on it professionally or you've played with it? Okay, quite a few of you. Okay, so a lot of you are really familiar with this development environment. You know, you've got your code and you've got your development client. And this is like code, this is React code that's, controlling what components are being rendered. But actually, I have to admit, I've been playing with your perception a little bit here because this is not the development client. This is the production app that's running in a simulator. And this is not client-side React code. This is server-side code. They're not React components. It's just using JSX to give you kind of a React-like experience. So you're probably wondering that if I change the code, how is it changing in the production application? And it's actually connected via WebSockets. So when the when the mobile app sees that the connection has been lost, it attempts to reconnect, and meanwhile the server is being restarted, and then it comes back with a new code. So here I'm able to change it, and if things are operating correctly, I should be able to see it all on my phone as well. Imminently. It's just reconnecting. So basically, this is a pretty fun environment, I think. And this is just a little bit of a tease about what sort of things you can do with server-driven rendering. But first, maybe I should continue on and talk actually about why I built this in the first place. This is an app called Uprising. And last year, I had a little glimmer of a big opportunity to work on a large-scale art installation. So the Empyrean Gate is a circular canvas for visual art that is 20 meters wide and 20 feet tall. I got my units a little bit messed up there, but you get the idea. This is really big, and it goes to the Burning Man Art Festival, as well as a few other festivals, and it was just there a few weeks ago with over 60,000 people. And last year, I got the opportunity to write some better software to control it. So that is why I built Uprising. What do you think? Isn't this cool? I am in awe of this thing, even still, having helped construct it physically and with the software. So this iPad app controls over 24,000 individually addressable LEDs. And we also have, actually here's Allison, who's playing with the same color slider that I was just showing you. And we also have a MIDI controller that's been integrated. So you can control all of these parameters with physical buttons and sliders, which just feels so fun. So going into this project, I knew that because I had to play back several different videos at once and do compositing and effects on all of those videos, JavaScript would not really be up to the job to do this. So I was planning on doing something where I would have a C++ server where I would pass data to the GPU to do the compositing and the effects. But actually, things that we know might have hidden limitations. So was this a real limitation or a perceived limitation? You know, if I had actually built this, tried to build it with C++ and the GPU, I wouldn't have been able to complete the project on time, and my dream would have been shut down. So, remember, we cannot let our perceived limitations hide the real possibilities of us reaching our dreams. So I prototyped this in Node.js with real careful attention to performance. And, you know, it works. You can use JavaScript to drive this many pixels with several videos at a reasonable frame rate and having effects. So this is a project called Uprising. Of course it's open source, because that's just kind of how I roll. But, you know, actually we should probably get back to the UI, because, you know, we are at a React conference after all. So this app uses a technique called server-driven rendering, where components are defined on the server and get sent down to the client to be rendered for the user. And of course, this is not a new technique. The web uses server-driven rendering by default, and React server components are a great new way to do server-driven rendering. And it's also really frequently used in the mobile industry. And these aren't all React Native apps, but they use server-driven rendering. And the reason why, you know, and they're not the only ones. There's tons of mobile apps that use server-driven rendering to basically reconfigure what their users are seeing based on a little component library that's baked into the app. And the reason so many people love to use server-driven rendering is because it enables them to deliver new content and features to their users immediately. And in Uprising, it allowed me to quickly iterate on the features of the server, which is the heart of the product, without rebuilding and redistributing the mobile app. But in the React Native open source community, we don't talk about server-driven rendering very often, because there's no easy way to do it. So that is why I teamed up with Mike Grabowski, the founder and CTO of CallStack, and together we launched Rise tools. We separated the server rendering from the Uprising code base. We rebranded, we built tests, we wrote documentation, and we published on NPM. Is that exciting? Yeah. Thank you. So Rise Tools is a suite of libraries that helps make it super easy for the React Native community to deliver new features and content to their apps faster than they ever could before. So now that we know that this is how Uprising works, let's take a closer look at what we're doing behind the scenes and take a look at some of the features that we're enjoying here. I mean, before we even move on, look at this. It's a callback that's happening server side. So this code is being executed on the server, right? And let's take a look at models, and we'll go back to our home page. So here in our models definition, this is kind of like the index of the server. Home is literally like a path, and by default, we're looking at home. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening inside of home. It's a view model, which means that it's going to be deriving state from other models. And we have the main state model, which is pretty straightforward. We've got state and set state, and this is, I know this looks just like React use state, but it's different. It's not a hook. And it's going to be used by this view. And the way that we describe this dependency inside of our view model is we use this getter. And then we just go ahead and render our home screen like normal. And this is what you saw before. And what you maybe noticed before is this onPress handler. So here we're not defining like a callback. We're actually describing an action. So this is an action definition that is being sent down to the client. And it's saying that when the user presses this button, you're going to navigate to this other path. So that's how this behavior works. It actually does not wait for the server in order to start that navigation. And if we take a look at models, you can see that there is something called control. But let's take a look at the library because I think it makes a really nice example. I mean, there are so many features of this Uprising app that I haven't had time to show you. But one of them is that you can save a scene later inside of the library and call it up later. So that way, work that you've done will be, you can resume and play back for people. So scenes is basically just like a list of different scenes. These are literally just pieces of JSON that are saved in a folder. So this is the browse library. So let's take a look at this because this is a lookup model. And it basically allows you to define a subpath inside of your path. So basically, this lookup will be called with that next path term when you do browse library / something. If you do browse library / nothing, it'll show the library. And here's the, it'll show the library, which is here, which is a view, again, based on the library index model. And this model is actually a query model. So this is the last of our 4 models, which kind of act like building blocks. And so the query model, you just give it an async function. And here, literally, we're just hitting the file system to list the directories. And we're filtering them out because .ds store is not a valid, it's not a valid scene that we want to show for the users. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these, and maybe we can try deleting them. So of course, there's the library items screen, which is what happens when you tap on a single one of these. So which is one that we want to delete? I have to be very selective right now. Okay. Blue enthrall. This one's, I think, is pretty boring. Did we break our server? Usually I would refresh in a React Native application, but this is like the production application, so there is no refreshing here. So I'm going to restart the server. And this is exactly what I get for refactoring right before the presentation. But I guess it decided to start working. This is my lucky day. So here we have a button called Delete from Library. And I'm going to, oops. So on our library items screen, we've got a delete button. And here you can see there's a little bit of confusion going on, but we're going to try to get this back. So delete from library is going to do a couple of things, right? The onPress handler is going to return a response after it does the deletion. So by returning a response, this allows the server to send an action down to the client to actually follow up with this behavior. So the idea is that it'll go back once you click this button and after it does the deletion. The deletion itself is going to basically do the delete and then invalidate the index. So here we're going to rename, which is kind of like deleting if you move to the deleted folder, and that's what we're doing here. And then it will invalidate that index that we've already seen, so it'll basically re-query because it's already being looked at, and then the view will update as well. But I think the server might not be feeling too well because this has gotten out of state. But you know, as long as I'm not presenting on stage, actually this works really well. Like, I've never had this problem before, so I don't even know how to troubleshoot it. But I think this gives you an idea for what it's like to use Rise tools on the server, where we get to use these building block models, right? You can just define JSX for one, and then you can also use state, query, lookup, and view, and compose really powerful and flexible applications this way. So that has been a quick introduction to what it's like to use Rise tools on the server. I'm really proud of this Uprising application because they managed to use it without any of my help at Burning Man just a few weeks ago, with tons of people getting to enjoy this massive art structure. So that's about it for the Uprising demo. What do you think? Yeah. Cool. All right, it worked perfectly. No notes. Okay, so now that we know what we're looking at, let's take a look at what it's like for you to actually get started using Rise tools. So how can you set up your application? Now, on the client, you're going to be using the Rise component. It all starts with the Rise component. And this component, at a minimum, requires components and a model source. Now, the components can be components from your application, like custom components that are depending on what you're doing in your application. And you also probably want to include your design system, so that way your server can express totally new features. The model source it's just a client. And this client connects to your server. In this case, we're using WebSockets, but you can also use HTTP. And of course, as you've seen, we have a JavaScript server, but you can also connect to a server using your own implementation if you want to write it in Go, or probably you want to use PHP and host it on a $5 server. I know that's a popular thing to do these days. And we've published a specification for the protocol, so that way you can implement your own servers if you'd like. And we have a few more things that you can pass into the Rise component, which kind of help expand on what we've already seen so far. So actions, as you've already seen, like navigate and go back, can be provided to the client. And lastly, you can provide a path to specify which model on the server that you're going to render. And this way, you can use many different Rise components in your application, all rendering different things. And this allows you to start integrating server-defined rendering inside of your applications really soon. You don't need to rebuild your whole application. You just drop in some Rise components and specify different paths. And you also saw that the server can actually define new screens in your application. And the way that works, if you're using Expo Router or React Navigation, you can just create a screen that renders the Rise component and read the path from your route params, passing that in as the path to Rise. So there you go. Now you get new screens that are defined after your application has been shipped to production. And of course, you're also going to need a server to do server-defined rendering. You know, I shouldn't surprise you. It's pretty easy. You know, you define some models, as you've seen, which are basically the paths on your server. And then you call create server. And of course, I am skipping a little bit of magic that's required to make JSX work. But you get the idea. Now, I've just shown you a lot of setup steps, right? So I'm sure you're starting to get the idea that there can be a really heavy setup for server-driven rendering. And I don't really like that. In fact, I'm starting to think that maybe this is not a real limitation, but this is just like a limitation that we're starting to perceive. So I think we should make it really simple. Like, this is not true. To get started on the server, we created npm create rise. So this is a one command that you can run to get up and running with developing server-driven applications. It gives you the entire server development environment for you. But you still need to bring your own library of components and actions, so that way your server has a suite of components that it can render, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe we can help you with this as well, because we want to make it as frictionless as possible for people to get started with server-driven rendering. So that is why we built RiseKit. RiseKit is a suite of components and actions that give you almost everything you need to start building server-driven applications. And you can use RiseKit in your existing applications. But I guess you still need to have that existing application, right? At the very least, you're going to need to build and distribute a custom mobile app that will be used to render the components for the server. Right? What do you think? Should we get rid of this too? Yeah. All right. So what if we distributed a mobile app for you? That's why we built Rise Playground. Okay, this is the last time I'm doing this, I promise. Okay, so Rise Playground allows you to connect to your server, who will then be able to render anything that you want to inside of RiseKit. So you can also contribute to RiseKit, maybe, and Rise Playground will get more features. So with Rise Playground and RiseKit, you can prototype really quickly, and you can build and deliver internal tools for your company. So I have one more demo, which is really like the riskiest demo I've ever attempted. So Rise Playground is in the App Store right now. And I might need your help if you want to participate in this last demo. So if as many of you as possible could pull out your phones and go download Rise Playground, just search for it in your App Store, we're gonna risk it with this really ambitious demo. And what we want to try to do right now is build a little application from scratch. So please go ahead and download Rise Playground. This will be interesting. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to start with npm create rise. We're going to create a little app called the vibes demo. So I want to suss out what the vibes are in this audience, in this room. What do you think about Rise? What do you think about everything going on? So I'm going to get started. And we're going to start by doing npm create rise, of course, at latest, because we want the latest. And it's vibes. Vibes is our demo. And I'm going to start from scratch, because I want a little sort of blank environment for us. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and install the dependencies from npm. Okay, we're going to be here for a while. This isn't fair for me to make you wait. So I'm actually going to stop faking my demo here. This is just a video. Yeah. I'm going to do it for real. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it completes. I'm not faking it, right? This is really me. Okay, so it's going to have us cd into our new directory and do npm run dev. Okay. So this is the VS Code environment, and this is the Rise Playground. That is literally the production app. And before I get started, I'm going to do this little trick that I happen to know about. So I'm going to open up server, and I'm going to add tunnel true, because I want the networking to work. So this is going to send the traffic for my dev server over the internet. So even somebody at home, in theory, if they're watching, would be able to participate. So now I'm going to go ahead and start the server. Oh, did I just change something? Okay, so I'm going to start the server, npm run dev. And we could type in the URL, but actually, why don't we just scan this QR code? So if you have Rise Playground, now is your chance to participate. I'm going to scan this as well because I want to see if this works. I'm a little nervous about what I'm attempting here. It says hello world? Good. All right, it does for me as well. So, but I want it to be on the recording, so I'm going to also connect manually. I'll select this URL and paste it here. Vibes. Paste. Okay, add connection. Vibes. All right. Hello world. So let's go ahead and take a look at our code. Our beautiful new code base that we just set up. Models. Okay, so if I change this code, all right, hopefully people are seeing this. All right, I'm not going crazy. This is working. All right. I know, right? This is fun. How often do you get to see like a mobile app being built like live? Well, let's see how far we get to go with this. So I'm going to turn on like turbo typing mode because I don't have the patience to type everything out. And these are the vibes that I want to be able to offer as survey options to you all. So we've got like rocket ship, we've got fire, we've got waves. So hopefully we can like build a little app where we can see these vibes. So instead of hello world and this whole UI thing, I'm going to quickly write a different component, which is this send vibes component. Where you can see we're actually going to be configuring the title of the screen. We're going to be doing a stack. These are Tamagui components with a title. And inside, we're just iterating over those vibes we defined earlier and rendering this button. Okay, lastly, I need to go ahead and use this send vibes here. I'll hit save. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing this. And if I open up this, you can see that it's doing a console.log. Oh, okay, it seems to be working for you all. That's pretty fun. All right. Okay, but I actually want you to be able to I want to be able to quantify the vibes a little bit better than that. Like that was just a mess. So how about we have some state, right? You can see that I've anticipated this a little bit. I want to have an object where we're keeping track of which vibes are being voted on. So here I'll create a new state, vibe state. Set vibe state. I wish I had Copilot to help me, but Copilot often just messes it up. Okay, so it's just a state, which is like React state, or like use state, but it's not. And we need to specify our initial state. Okay, so now we're going to want to go ahead and do something with this. We're going to need to set it instead of doing console.log. We're also going to want to return a response so you can get some feedback. And we have a toast for that. Toast. Where we can say thanks for the vibe.icon. So we can thank you for sending in all of these good vibes. Isn't that great? It's going to be good vibes only. No, there's no bad vibes here. Okay, so here we're going to want to have something like send vibe and pass in the vibe. Send vibe, and we're going to need to go and implement that real quick. Let's try to use the right macro. Okay, so you can see it's just going to call set vibe state and increment this thing right here. Increment the vibe that you're sending. Okay, I could run this, but it's not going to be very impressive because we're not actually showing this feedback anywhere. So we actually need to go and use this vibe state somewhere. So I'm going to implement one more thing. So these are the vibes results. You don't actually need to read this code, but it's basically it's just going to show like a poll indicator here. So just take my word for it. But what's interesting is that we're going to need to go and use a new model type here, right? We've got a state model, but we're going to do vibes result. Vibes results, we'll see. It's going to be a view, and we're going to need to pass in a getter to the view. I don't know why it does that. Okay, so we're going to return vibes results and pass in the vibes, which we're going to get the current vibes from vibe state. Okay, and as you can see, we have some type safety. vibe results. Why is it? Okay, it's just single vibe results. I'm having some issues here. All right. So I hit save, which means that if we tap here, we're going to get this feedback. But hold your vibes. Don't vibe just yet, because we still don't have a way to link to this new screen that we created. So vibes results, as you can see, it's a model, but like we have no link to it. Like in theory, you could go into the app and type in the path, but don't bother doing that. I'm going to create a link for us. So here on Send Vibes, under here, I'm going to go ahead and create this link. So again, it's a button, and we're going to pass this navigate action. I don't know why we set the header back title. Like this is something from some old demo, I think. Anyways, it's going to say see results. So now I'm going to go and hit see results, and the server is really having an interesting day right now. Maybe I feel like this application is feeling a little sick. I didn't get a chance to refresh it earlier. See results. Yeah, I think you're right. So here, I'm linking to the wrong path. We have a lot of type safety, but this is something that's a little bit tricky. So basically, I use the wrong path name here. So now you can see, wow, you're vibing. Celebration. Cool, well, thanks for participating. Waves? Can we get some waves? I feel like the organizers of this conference are really crushing it right now. So can we get some waves? Yeah. Cool, well, wasn't this fun? Wow. Maybe some fire if we think that my laptop is about to set fire with everyone participating. Like this is a poor little server machine right here. And the Wi-Fi in this room is probably about to melt down, so I should switch away before we have a little too much fun. But thank you so much for participating. Wow. That was cool. Okay, let's get on past our faked. Is Keynote going to work for me here? Oh, it's funny that of all things that are going to break, it's going to be Keynote and not my application that I was building. Oh, sorry. It wasn't Keynote. All right, so that has been a quick introduction to Rise tools. I hope you had fun with that last demo, because that was a rush. And you might have a similar rush if you use Rise tools, because it allows you to immediately deliver new content and features to your users, rapidly iterating on your app. And I think you might have a lot of fun playing with it. So if you'd like to learn more about Rise tools, go to rise.tools and stay in touch with us on social media, GitHub, Discord, and Twitter. You know, you can find all the links on rise.tools. And yeah, together, I hope we've had a fun time, but also I hope we've gotten better at spotting our perceived limitations, which can close our mind to what is possible and potentially shut down our dreams. So next time you come across limitations like these, maybe you can think twice and say, you know, maybe there is a way. Maybe we can do interactive features even if it's server-driven. Maybe we can build new features without going through a build and deploy cycle. So together, I believe we can rise above our perceived limitations and realize our dreams. Thank you, React Alicante.